Carl Sagan could not have predicted to tell us back then.
Less than an hour before your meeting with President Xi, you posted on social media that you...
We're very powerful. This country is very powerful.
Far
more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world that we have. More powerful than anybody, not even close.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night. Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Even as these grainy satellite images released today by the Chinese government.
Why shoot it down though if it's not hostile?
Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space.
Why the Americans would?
They leave distance annihilated.
This country is very powerful. Far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world. Not even close.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that, one way or another.
Destroyer of worlds. Oi! You got a license for that physics? Chat, welcome to Felony Physics. Epstein edition. Dun dun dun! OMG, chat. The Epstein files have dropped. They are available on the internet, and people have been searching through them. Yes. War. Before we get to that, and we're going to get to that in a minute, I want to talk about the Jeremy Corbell MQ-9 FLIR drone video, briefly recapping that. And then at the end of the stream tonight, we are going to go through Pharis Williams' 5D theory. Hopefully we'll have enough time for that, depending on how fast we go through this. So, first, the video that was brought up. I have been watching people's reactions on social media to this video. Let me pull it up here for you guys. If you've been living under a rock, this video here that I'm about to play. Let me go remove this for a second, guys. Jeremy Corbell released this on Friday. We discussed it immediately on Friday. And it seems pretty clear that it's 3 drones, encased in plasma, most likely, based on the reflectiveness that we're seeing in this FLIR footage here. The thing that we didn't know whether about was, were we looking up? Are we looking down? What altitude are we at? And I haven't seen a lot of discussion of the actual facts of the video. So there's a few things I want to bring up. Some people are claiming this video is birds. That seems to be the prevailing skeptard, cohesive theory that they have all decided that they're going to have a collective belief about on this. And one thing I want to point out, the reason why this is not birds, first of all, is because birds don't glow in the dark. They don't glow in infrared like that. I mean, really, birds? By the way, I've decided, I don't know why I just discovered this. I am a skeptic. I am a true high IQ skeptic who looks for the answers and things. The difference between me or us and the debunkers, the Reddit debunkers, is they take skepticism to full skeptard mode, where everything is just fake to them. And that's where their minds look at this and somehow think birds. So beyond just those two reasons, beyond the fact that birds don't fly in triangle formations of 3 like that, beyond the fact they don't glow in the dark and glow in FLIR, beyond the fact that you don't see any birds, any wings or anything like that in these videos, the other big detail is this. It actually tries to lock in on it and is not able to lock in. I'm pretty sure our most advanced FLIR cameras are going to lock in on some birds. Let it play here. Pause. Monka chat. What's going on here? Okay. Why is this thing so silly? I probably have too many windows. Okay. Well, right here at this point, it locks in on the birds and then it's not able to lock in. So let me go back here. Here we go. You see it try to lock in right there and then it fails to lock in. So the question is, if it's unable to lock in on this, then it's probably not birds. Like right there. Tries to lock in, misses it. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to believe that's birds. That makes you feel good. You think that the U.S. government took this video of an MQ-9 Reaper and categorized it under UFOs and they couldn't tell that they were tracking birds for like a minute? On you. One more detail I will point out that nobody has seen here. First of all, JK Philly fan was able to show that this is facing downward because you can tell from one of these numbers on the right is like negative. So it means it's angled downward. You do see an elevation over here on the right. I don't know why nobody's pointed this out. It says ELV on the bottom right. And it actually hovers between 0 and 3, usually. It usually flips between 0 and 3. The problem with this is that it may, and again, this comes from somebody who never had firsthand experience on these. I have a feeling they might be able to like set this, like if you get on a scale and you can set it to 0 or whatever. I have a feeling they can kind of do that with the elevation. So that might be the ground. If that's the ground, that does add a lot of weight to the bird theory. If it is not the ground, if that is like high altitude or even low altitude clouds, birds don't fly at super high altitude. So if that is clouds that we're seeing in the background and not the ground, then I'd say there's no way that can be birds. So just wanted to throw that out there. We got a lot more interesting stuff to go over tonight, but wanted to review that and get people up to speed on where that was at. Oh, one more thing I want to say on that. Why am I the guy defending Jeremy Corbell's videos? Where is this guy? How come he's not defending his own videos from arguments that people are saying they're birds or what have you? I haven't seen a more manufactured disclosure in my whole life. This guy's being given videos by the government, vetting them with the government, handing them to us, the people, saying nothing about it other than here's some details. I got it all vetted. It's good to go. Go for it. And then just doesn't bring it up ever again. What the hell, dude? I find some leaked videos on the internet and I make it my whole life's mission. Partially, one, because I don't want to be killed and it's the safest way. Number 2, because I find it super interesting. And number 3, maybe it'll pay off in the long run. Probably not, though. Okay, this is relevant to a clip that I was just watching that I want you guys to listen to before we get into the, all illegal felony physics and all that other stuff tonight. We're going to do a recap on that, too, in a second here. But what about this? Why is this not? Why is it not finding this? Okay, it's CIA puppet. This one. Okay. Remember that Jacques Vallée video we were watching yesterday? Listen to just this part right now. Get ready.
Beckman called today to try to check up on some hearsay. He'd heard that a new group had been formed to study UFOs under Bigelow funding, that it included Kit Green, Hal Puthoff, Dean Judd, Major McDuff, John Peterson, and me, and it had links to CIA Director Woolsey and to E-Systems, that Bob Lazar was working with it through a project involving Hal, Bob Wood, and his son Ryan, that John Alexander and Ron Pandolfi were once considered to run the group, but had been excused, that the goal was propulsion technology, and that it was all a front financed by the government.
What? Do you guys know what he's saying right there? That's Jacques Vallée saying he got a call, and they're saying that the group that Putov put together that had Bob Lazar as part of it, which included Jeremy Corbell, was the one that put Bob Lazar on the map. He's definitely connected to these people. This is the one that was funded by Bigelow. Well, Bigelow is funding the UFO stuff. It's either ATIP or what was it, Kona Blue, or one of these programs, but they all include Hal Puthoff. Now, what is the main subject of what he said? He said their goal is propulsion technology. Their goal isn't alien disclosure. Their goal is propulsion technology, guys. And propulsion technology is energy technology, fusion technology. And it's a front financed by the government. This basically says Bigelow is a CIA spook, and he's probably only in the position he's in because of his CIA connections. And it says whatever they're pushing out to us, the public, is whatever it is, it's orchestrated disclosure. It's in their best interests. Part of it may be true, it may all be true. I personally am not going to take people at face value that tell me the aliens are coming. We have to be careful about the aliens, but don't worry about how the energy source works. I mean, it would change the whole world, but don't worry about it. It's too dangerous. Wait, I'm supposed to trust you, but you are curating information, leaking videos through your social media influencers like Jeremy Corbell to us with no additional comment or content? It does not feel honest. It feels like they're leaving something out. And what the MH370 videos have shown us, it has shown us that they have figured this technology out. So it shows us they got caught in a big, big lie. It shows that Puthoff and the rest of them got caught in a big lie because they are the ones behind all of this. They're setting up front companies because they're the ones behind all of this. Their hands are in the cookie jar. They're getting caught. They're setting up these front companies because they are trying to get this propulsion technology. And the MH370 video showed that they were successful. They were successful. And they're out here saying, we don't know what it is. We have no, I don't know, aliens? I could be anything. Big shitting and grin on their face. Are you fucking kidding me? Tell us what the fuck it is. The MH370 video show you know exactly what the hell is going on. If you can figure out how orbs work and teleportation works, you definitely figured out what the alien answer to the alien question is. Why aren't you telling us? That's what I want to know. I don't want to know about alien disclosure. I want to know why you're not telling us and what you're not telling us. Because what we have found out, what I am so passionate about right now, is that we found out the biggest secret they've been hiding, bigger than Epstein, bigger than COVID-19, and that whole, that's not even a psyop. That was just mass formation psychosis. This is the biggest cover-up ever, and you could hardly even call it a cover-up, and you could hardly even blame them because we're so stupid, we should have figured it out long ago. What is that? That fusion bombs, thermonuclear weapons, can manipulate space-time. And people might say, well, yeah, maybe, but the effect would be really small. No. Listen to what I just said. They figured out that thermonuclear weapons can manipulate space-time. Do you not realize that that means they know what gravity is? It's not a mystery to them. It is no stretch from that to say that they have unified physics. You probably have to unify physics to understand that and understand how that works and why that works. The issue with it is they figured it out in the 1950s and the 1960s. Most people are dead from back then. That's how long ago it was. Now, if you don't believe me, this brings us to our first science paper of the night. And it's a doozy, chat. It's a doozy. Gravitational radiation production using nuclear explosions. Oh, what? Can I get a whoop whoop in the house? Sweet. John Knuckles, Lowell Wood of Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, 1974. Now, which is my favorite part? I believe it's right over here somewhere. They talk about making a cylinder as in a fusion bomb. What they're talking about here is they're talking about using the energy of the atom itself to produce a gravitational wave. And you would say, how? How, Ashton? How do you make a gravitational wave from the energy of the atom? Chat, have I taught you nothing? Any guesses in the chat? What do you guys think? If I said, hey, if you take one atom, you got all this energy spinning around in it. The 0 point energy is basically powering that atom. And it's creating gravity. How would I get a lot? How would I scale that up? How would I scale that effect up? Synchronicity. You synchronize all the atoms up. If you could synchronize everything up, get everything to move lockstep, perfect synchronization with itself, that's how you could scale up the effect of a single atom to a massive, massive effect. Now, in here it says, in fact, one could in principle produce a directional beam of gravitational radiation by proper phasing of the explosion in different parts of the cylinder. Thus, in principle, the intensity of gravitational radiation that one could generate with a cylinder of deuterium and tritium would be limited only by the amount of tritium available. In practice, of course, one would be limited by the amount of energy released from 1 kilogram of, I think it's hydrogen there, or maybe lithium. I'm not sure what they have there. But what it says here is that we can shape our waves. And what they're talking about is that synchronicity. They're saying, get everything to cancel out. Just like we learned from Tom Bearden, the Ehrenhoff-Bohm effect. Get your waves to cancel out. And what are you left with? The scalar potential. You would say nothing. There's nothing there. But there is. There's the stress in the medium. Let's go back to my favorite example. We haven't used it in a while. 1 second. This will tie it together for you. So, imagine this rubber band is 2 electromagnetic waves that are 180 degrees out of phase. And any 2 waves, as long as they're equal on both sides, as long as their amplitudes are equal, they cancel each other out perfectly, you would say there's nothing in the middle of this. So if I even put 1 unit or 2 units or 3 units of force on this rubber band? Nothing. You would say that in all those situations, the forces cancel out. But you would say, Ashton, or I would ask you, do you think that there's no difference between the rubber band at this stage or this stage, depending on how far I stretch it? You would say, yes, there is. If you pull it too hard, if I pull this rubber band too hard, this rubber band will snap. That's the stress in the medium of the rubber band. The stress in the medium of space-time is the scalar potential. It is that potential which is invisible, that we do not see, but is all around us. That's what the Aharonov-Bohm effect proves is real. And the reason why we don't see this effect, this is absolute facts right now. The reason why we don't see this effect is because you could imagine that our universe is like an extremely tight piece of fabric stretched over a table. And if it's extremely tight, it's very difficult to pull that fabric up. The more loose that is, the easier it is. Because it's so tight, it requires a huge amount of energy or mass energy density to break through that. Now, how does that come back to nuclear weapons? That's exactly what nuclear weapons are. Nuclear weapons are harnessing the power of the atom, scaling it up through resonance, synchronization, scaling those effects up, making them all cancel out at one point exactly. And you've created a massive scalar potential. And we know that to be a gravitational wave, a gravitational ripple. That's how it's represented in our three-dimensional reality. So this is the secret. Now, back to these papers. So the other thing I want to point out about this paper is only 2 pages long. 2 pages long. One of the shortest scientific papers I've ever seen in my life. Why would they release such a short scientific paper? Why is there no discussion about the implications of this? All there is, hey, so it turns out we might be able to make gravitational waves with thermonuclear weapons. Bye. That's basically what this scientific paper is. Do you see at the bottom here what it says at the thing? We would like to thank Edward Teller and George Zimmerman for their discussions. Wow. So I found another paper I thought was interesting. I want to pull up. This, I just happened to find this one. I knew this one existed, but I was Googling to try to find that last paper, and I eventually did find the PDF of it. And I found this one. What does this say? Generation of gravitational waves with nuclear reactions. Wait a minute. That sounds really similar to the other paper that we just looked at. So similar that even Google was getting them mixed up. When I was searching for them, I accidentally found this one. But wait, who are the authors of this paper? Giorgio Fontana and Robert M.L. Baker. Holy shitto. Robert M.L. Baker. I think we have talked about this guy more on this podcast, on these live streams, than anybody else in the entire world. He was essentially unknown to the world before we started talking about him. He was, as far as I can tell, the world's leading expert on high frequency gravitational waves before he died. He has like 20 papers about high frequency gravity waves. And now here he is connecting them to really the same thing that Lowell Wood and John Knuckles were saying. The problem of efficient generation of high frequency gravitational waves and pulses of gravitational radiation. I mean, even calls it gravitational radiation. might find a reasonably simple solution by employing nuclear matter, especially isomers. A fissioning isomer not only rotates at extremely high frequency, but also highly deformed in the first stages of fission. Thus, one achieves significant impulsive forces acting over extremely short time spans. Alternatively, a pulsed particle beam, which could include antimatter, could trigger nuclear reactions and build up a coherent gravitational wave as the particles move through a target mass. The usual difficulty with high-frequency gravity waves generated by nuclear reactions is the small dimensions of their nuclear reaction volumes. That is the small moment of inertia. Such a difficulty is overcome by utilizing clusters of nuclear material whose nuclear reactions are in synchronization. Oh yes, chat. Go ahead and bow down if you want. Your new Lord and Savior of physics has arrived. I am here to save physics, chat. It's not all doom and gloom. We were cooked before. We were cooked. And then I rolled up with some MH370 videos. And now we know. There we go. So he's saying you need a bunch of matter and you need to get it synchronized up, all moving around at the same time. Okay. And are at a large distance apart. The effective radius of gyration of the overall nuclear mass system is enormous. And if the quadrupole formalization holds even approximately, then significant high-frequency gravitational waves is generated. Wow. Yeah. And then it says something about how they go on. So I wanted to show you those before we look at Epstein stuff. Why? Because the first Epstein video I'm going to show you will now probably blow your mind. There have been rumors that Epstein was involved in some of this UFO stuff, interested in this research, and it has essentially been proven true. At a bare minimum, he was very, very interested. His emails are filled with these kinds of topics. He was researching his entire intent. We're not going to watch all these clips tonight, but I watched part of this segment. And actually, we will probably watch some of it here, so I shouldn't spoil all of it. But essentially, high level, Epstein wanted to study quantum mechanics. There was a weirdness there that couldn't be explained. He knew there was something there, and he wanted to put money into it. Very interesting, because at the core of all of this, the fusion bomb, space-time manipulation, is quantum mechanics. How does the atom really work? Because how the atom really works will tell us how we're going to engineer what Robert M.L. Baker and John Knuckles and Lowell Wood just told us, which is that somehow whatever the atom is, we got to get those things coherent, all aimed up, lined up the same way. Boom. Cancel out. Okay. So, one more tidbit before I go to our first clip. This is just for my MH370 lovers out there. I haven't forgotten about you, boo. Haven't forgotten about you. Never will. Never forget MH370. This is from the Epstein files. I don't know if this is Epstein's sales list. Presumably it is for his trades. This is from June 2011. June 2011, very first trade on the list, high sale cost, free scale semiconductors through JP Morgan Securities. Are these values with extra zeros here? 2,500 at 18. Oh, so $45,000 worth. Okay. So he was quite literally invested in Freescale Semiconductors, the company that was on board MH370. I mean, 3 years before they disappeared, but he knew about them. He was interested in them. So if there is a direct connection, if that does end up being the motive, if MH3, if the semiconductor people, they're going to China, they either had the technology in their heads or on them, and that's why the CIA did that, then this is pretty weird. This is pretty weird, and probably somebody should go back and figure out who he was getting stock tips from around the 2011 time point, because that was a good time to buy out as well, to get out of there. That company ended up being $7 billion in debt, and after the MH370 situation, they got bought out, and all that debt luckily went away. Okay, so I just wanted to share that. First video. Where is it? Here we go. Epstein, the man behind the curtain.
Why did I buy a ranch in New Mexico?
Okay, so this clip, by the way, first time I've ever heard Epstein before. Never heard him before all this. I didn't really know who he was before all the drama and everything either. First clip is about why. I guess he was a founder of the Santa Fe Institute. This is the institute that was studying this, let's not call it metaphysics, but let's just say quantum mechanics and just any interesting edge of physics concepts. He's asked why he started this institute in New Mexico. First of all, why is that even a question? Do people normally ask that? I mean, maybe I'm just a bad conversationalist. You're like, hey, why do you start your company in New Mexico? I don't know. Why start it anywhere? Because I was there? I don't know. But no, in this case, there's a very specific reason. Here we go. Let's go, EP. Tell us what's up, brother.
So why did I buy a ranch in New Mexico 1993? So that gives you some sense. So I would have funded it in 1990. Los Alamos, which was the high-energy lab up in New Mexico, was losing all its scientists.
And Los Alamos, it was where Oppenheimer and where a lot of the nuclear weapons program, the bomb.
That's where the Manhattan Project.
Manhattan Project was
yes,
at Los Alamos, and you bought.
I needed to spit out my drink when I heard that the first time. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I didn't want there to be any connection between Epstein and all this stuff. I don't want to be mixing and matching my conspiracy theories here, right? You start to dilute it a little bit when you start to be like, yeah, you know, now it's connected to the time travelers and the X-Men and the Egyptian planes. Not naming names, you know what I'm saying. But wow, bro. He decided to set up the Santa Fe Institute in New Mexico because that's where Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory is, and that's where all the nuclear scientists were at. This is the guy that is allegedly, and pretty much everybody agrees, he was convicted, trying to compromise significant figures and basically broker information, broker intelligence. Now, if I'm right, and fusion bombs are manipulating space-time, like relativity says should happen, then this is really suspicious, because this implies that he knew these were the most important people on the planet. The scientists and engineers that were working on the atomic bomb knew more about the truth of physics and the universe than anybody else. And if they knew about the ether, 5-dimensional theory, if they knew there was an extra dimension, because they did nuke tests and they saw the results and they're like, yeah, so there's more energy there. And why do you think they banned the testing? Because When you ban the testing, you can't do any more real tests. Now you can only do simulations. And the simulations will only adhere to the code that you input in. So if you design your simulation without the extra dimension, you'll always only get back wrong results from your simulation. If you put your simulation in that there is an extra dimension, it'll work out. How would you know the difference? Especially if you're not allowed to test it in reality, in practice. If that were the case, only a few select people would actually know the truth. And imagine if those select people were sworn to secrecy, that the simulations couldn't tell you the reality. And only a few people are even alive today that have ever seen a nuclear weapon go off. That's a really, really good way to hide weapons, hide nuclear weapon secrets. Let me let him continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to rant too much there. I just think that's just so huge.
Where a lot of the nuclear weapons program, the bomb.
That's where the Manhattan Project.
Manhattan Project was
yes,
as Los Alamos, and you bought your property out in New Mexico to be near that?
Yes, because the scientists were going to be, they cut the funding for high energy physics. But the people who worked in Los Alamos would still be in the Santa Fe area.
They cut that because this was the Cold War dividend, right?
I don't remember exactly why. It was because, again, people thought that physics and high energy physics really wasn't that important.
Because that was about nuclear weapons.
No, it was because they decided, which may be not right. This was the same time that Murray Gell-Mann came up with the term quark, Q-U-A-R-K. He picked it out of an old poem, the word quark. But it was it was mysterious. So they were starting to understand in the 90s that in our world of the physics world, there was things that were just unexplainable. They called it strange things. You gave it a name. You gave it some characteristics. You called it had charm, was one of the terms. It had a charm. It had a flavor. It had a color. But no one, Mr. Bannon, understood what it was.
Okay. He's talking about quantum mechanics. He's talking about quantum mechanics here. He's going, there's this weirdness. There are these weird things like entanglement. And if this probably seems weird for you guys that are younger, because you've grown up in a world where we've always had quantum computers. We've always had AI for the last 10 years. Someone like me that was born in the 80s, like, the idea of quantum mechanics being taken seriously didn't even really begin to happen until the 90s. From a cultural understanding and perspective, the idea of quantum entanglement, testing EPR. Sure, it did happen beforehand, but it didn't really become a part of the collective conscious where people were really taking it seriously until relatively recently. So for him to set up this institute in the late 80s, early 90s, where he was like, hey, we're going to study these effects, these quantum effects. He was way ahead of the curve. Way ahead of the curve. Talking about quarks and saying, yes, we give them these colors. We say the quarks have these colors associated to them. I don't think that's literal, but I don't even know anymore. But the point here is what I bring up is, honestly, sure that people have, maybe there's some tests that people have proven to show that quarks exist and this is what they're at. I don't know. For me, everything that's smaller than the atom, it's already so small that we are doing our best to visualize what we think it is. We'll know for sure when we can make a microscope that can look at something that small. But I think we'll end up being surprised. Okay. This last part really brings it all home.
Just like the financial system.
And you wanted to investigate that?
I wanted to see if we could build tools so others smarter than me could help investigate it.
And that was the beginning of your concept of the Santa Fe Institute?
Yes.
The foundational thought, the organizing principle of Santa Fe,
yes,
in the high physics lab at Los Alamos, right, which had been the headquarters of Manhattan, and the Trinity Project, right, the bomb.
Yes.
So you're talking about the elite, the high priest
of physics.
Of physics.
Yes, sir.
which high priest of physics, some subset of that is also mathematics.
Yes, they're both similar.
Wow. The high priests of physics. Chat, we have started our new religion. Welcome to the cult. Everyone, please. If you're new to our cult, please go pick up your Bible. It is Frontiers of Propulsion Science. It's available for free in PDF form on our Discord. I'll try to pin it for us. Edited by Mark Millis and Eric W. Davis. It's free for all on our Discord, and hopefully Mark Millis and Eric Davis don't come after us. It's not that we want to steal from you. It's that we believe that information like this, information so important for humanity like this, should be available to the world for free. We care about the world that much. That's the reason. So, we have started our religion. We have our high priests, Oak Shannon, Lowell Wood, John Knuckles. Oh. We have the Archbishop Hal Puthoff. He might even be the Pope secretly. We don't even know. Maybe. But these are definitely the guys. And one more thing I want to repeat that I said last time is that we have dug and found so many people. I was trying to just list them off in my head. I don't even know if we can do another tier list. There's that many, like well over 50. And at this point, we have to have hit a few. Like if we're playing Battleship here, we had to have sunk a few ships at this point. Some of these people have got to be directly involved in this. They're not just sitting on the sidelines cheerleading. They gotta be in on it too. I mean, how many more secret Black Project engineers can there be with this knowledge? In fact, you might even argue we've hit most of them. Now, another video clip. This is more on the quantum mechanics side of this. I'm trying to go through Red Panda's thing here because he tagged it. But he's been going on a Pinocchio kick. Apparently, guys, do you know that Pinocchio was about sex trafficking? I learn something new every day. Here we go. This one's kind of short. The other thing about Epstein, that the reason why I was even interested in this was because we already knew that he organized a gravitational wave conference with Lawrence Krauss. He was buddy-buddy. He was Brokeback Mountain with Lawrence Krauss, allegedly. I don't know that to be a fact. I'm just saying it. But the way they talk in emails seem pretty gay for each other. Just my outside perspective. No judgment. I mean, it's fine. Sleep with whoever you want. But Lawrence Krauss did make one funny joke. He said, there's a woman, finally a woman that's good at math. That's pretty poor taste. And then Epstein replied, transgender? No question mark, though. Oh, yikes. Yikes, chat. Anyway, so point being, already interested in gravitational waves. So we knew anybody that's interested in gravitational waves probably has some idea of this extra dimension, this idea of the ether. Because what is the wave? What is the gravity wave? What is rippling? What's the medium that the wave is transmitting through? All waves require a medium. Sound waves, waves in the water. So what's the wave? What's the gravity wave? That's your answer. That's why we need this extra dimension, this fifth dimension. So if you understand that a gravitational wave exists, that it's been proven now, and this was only proven relatively recently, 2017, 2015. Again, the public's consciousness of this is a bit delayed, let's say. If that exists, then an extra dimension should not even be surprising. Here we go.
So why did I buy a ranch in New Mexico in 1990?
Wait, that's not the right clip. Hold on. Here we go. This one.
Why did the ball go down? I didn't push it. I just let it go. So Someone's pushing the ball, because I know that I am confident that the only thing that gets something to move is with a force that pushes. So there's a force that's pushing the ball down. In fact, he called it gravity. He measured how fast it was pulled, but never was able to explain why it happened. How is it? What is gravity? It's this. Everybody says, well, why did the ball fall to the ground? Because gravity took it. But what's gravity? That's, as Feynman would say, that's the name of the thing. We have no idea what it is. Why did the ball?
Bro, this is so, to me, this is just so crazy. I'm Feynman #1 super fan. You say you like Feynman more than me, I'll fight you right now. Get your gloves out right now. We're boxing. That's it. You'd be like, Ashton, you're like $150 soaking wet. I'd be like, that's how much I love Feynman. I'll take one for the team against Mike Tyson for Richard Feynman. And here he is saying, and not just glazing the goat, not just glazing him, but also using his analogy in context. He's going, hey, what even is gravity? This Feynman has a famous 5-7 minute speech out there where he gets asked, what is magnetism? And he goes, well, the answer to the why question has to do with how much you're willing to just accept at face value. And he gives a great analogy. He says, why is ice slippery? You would think in your head, you go, well, it's wet. But why is it wet? And when you really start to dig down this, you keep getting to more and more why questions until eventually you just get to a point where you just accept it. And to give an example, we'd say, if I were to say, my grandma fell over, you wouldn't ask why. You'd be like, oh, is she okay? Which hospital is she at? You understand all of that context without me having to go into any additional detail. Just based on knowing what a grandma is and knowing the context of your grandma might have fall conditions, right? Without me even saying any other information about it. But if you say, what is gravity? People will be like, it's like a pulley force. And that's what Epstein is saying. He's saying, all we know about gravity is that if I drop this napkin, it's going to go to the ground. We know it's going to go down. But why does it go down? We can measure this downward force. And here's the answer. Here's what we have been assuming versus the real answer, assuming a 5-dimensional reality. We have been told that a gravity is a particle, that we're going to find this particle of gravity, these gravitons, and that this will be our 4th fundamental force. We're going to have all these forces that we're going to make up. All these different forces. They're all a little different from one another. And gravity will be one of them. The problem was we built this huge collider, particle accelerator. We're going to accelerate these particles near the speed of light and collide them. And then we're going to see all the little pieces. And we did that. And we looked at all those little pieces. And you know what wasn't there? The graviton. There was no graviton there. And now, since then, since like the 2000s, physics has been in a crisis because we don't know what the fuck gravity is. Even though it's probably the most fundamental thing on this earth. Drop an apple, goes to the ground. That's where Newton comes from. Newton literally exists because an apple fell from a tree. No, but this is where the idea of gravitation came from, is Sir Isaac Newton. Realizing that things relate to other objects. So what is the real answer to what gravity is? Gravity is a pressure force. Imagine a bubble in the ocean. And you see this bubble, and where is it going to go? It's going to go flying up. But you don't ask, why is the bubble going flying up? It has to do with density. So a lot of people, a lot of kids, when they were in science class, they would have to do these science experiments. One of my favorite experiments, one I still remember to this day, was a very simple one. Put water, oil, grease, different liquids that have different densities into a jar, and they will stay separated. And if you put objects in them, the objects will fall down to the certain level where they reach their equilibrium between certain densities. And I love that in the context of gravity. Because you would say, how do we manipulate gravity? Well, don't think about trying to make a graviton. You're thinking about the problem all wrong. Think about manipulating the lattice, squeezing the lattice structure. Imagine the entire universe is just this screen that you're looking at right now. And now imagine it's like a matrix, right? It's like Minecraft. Everything's little blocks. When I'm talking about manipulating gravity, I'm saying take your matrix and squish it or expand it. Squish it. And if you squish your matrix in a localized point, say around an airplane flying through the sky, you squish your matrix in just this point. You squish it and you invert that matrix. This goes, and then it shoots out. This point. That's gravity manipulation. And you could use that same effect to simply ride on a wave. And you're just riding the wave, just like a surfer does. Okay, let's take a look. Now that we understand gravity, now that we understand Epstein, I don't know if he understood gravity. My true impression I got from these video clips was that he knew there was something classified, something secret. Does he really know the actual answer? Not sure. I need to hear him talking about the idea of the ether or something that's analogous to that. Analogous. And then I would be more convinced. So more to come on this, but what I heard is that there's like 6 or 8 more hours worth of interviews. So maybe he will talk about some of these topics. Now, let's take a look at some of these emails, because this is also pretty interesting. Not all of them are super interesting. I'll give you, there's not a lot of context with a lot of these. So take it at, for what you will. Here's an email to Jeffrey Epstein vacation from David Grossoff. Here's some coverage of reports of teleportation of energy, games of entanglement, and attached is the author's report. Physicist proves that teleportation of energy is possible. Is it gone? Oh, yeah, okay. That's gone. So I think this is HOTA's, HOTTA. I think this is HOTA's quantum energy teleportation protocol. I'm pretty sure that's based on the timeline here. I kind of am becoming one of the world's leading experts on teleportation and wormholes. I'm pretty sure this is I forget his first name. HOTTA is the last name, though. And the idea was this. The reason why this is so big, the context here, is that people started to hone in on what kind of teleportation was going to be real. And they realized it's not going to be Star Trek teleportation. They realized we're not going to dematerialize every atom and rematerialize and resequence every atom. That's stupid. They realized the answer is you create a hole, a geometry between 2 points in space and time, bring these 2 points together, and then the person just walks across the bridge. There's no rematerializing or anything like that. But then physicists realized a big problem. Anyone know? Oh, yeah, Mashiro Hata. I was close. There you go. Thank you very much. Mashiro Hata. Mashiro Hata. Okay. Masahiro Hata, I think his name is. The problem is, if you can teleport something, let me bring the. If you can teleport an object, are you giving yourself free energy? Are you giving yourself free energy? And I always do this thought experiment, but it's a very simple one to understand. Is if we imagine this airplane is now a huge amount of electricity based on how much mass it is, which is a lot of mass. E equals mc squared. We say, okay, this is a huge amount of energy in here. So we've got all this electricity. If I can instantly move this from here to here, and I'm chilling over here, I just moved that energy to me where I can use it now. Whereas before I would have had to traverse all that distance to get there. How much energy did it cost me to move that energy? If it cost me less energy to teleport the plane than the total energy of the plane, we got a problem. We got a problem. Because that would mean we can now just teleport energy from some other point in the universe to us and have unlimited energy. It's an unlimited energy hack now. Because we don't care where it comes from. We don't care where the current energy comes from. Just atoms and shit. So Jeffrey Epstein getting this, pretty interesting. Shows that he was at least interested in these topics, maybe interested in trying to understand the idea of teleportation. Now, keep in mind, teleportation has been considered as far out there as like witches and shit. For pretty good reason. Until I started and you guys helped started bringing it back. Started making it more palatable to people. And we did that by what we're doing today is demystifying this for people. Making people understand how it's real, exactly how it's real. Now, here's another email. I'm going to read this. This is not, I don't know if this is to Jeffrey Epstein. I don't really know who these people are. Presumably, they're a bunch of scientists. I do see Brian Josephson there. That's the Brian Josephson, the Nobel Prize winner, Josephson Junction. The Josephson Junction is basically how you turn a microchip into a gravity device. There he is. Thank you very much for your kindest correspondence regarding the concept of energy. Indeed, energy can mean several different concepts within physics, all relating to the physical accepted constructs of nature and its interactions. In relativistic physics, we encounter E equals mc squared. In quantum field theory, E equals h star nu. I'm forgetting my characters, whatever. In classical mechanics, we think of potential and kinetic energy, and in chemical physics, we can allude to the idea of 0-point energy. Okay. In condensed matter, 0-point motion and forthcome coherent states or matter as representation basis in cosmology, extensions can be made for the energy of the vacuum. The false vacuum, depending on metastability, the idea of the cosmological constant as a representation of the energy density of the vacuum and its association of 0-point energy matter fields. What does this mean? Shit chat. Honestly, whose PhD? Who's going to be the first who's going to get their PhD grievoused by me? Who's going to get their shit? Whose PhD am I going to take first? I'm not even going to go get one. I'm of the Pharis Williams mindset. PhDs are for people that don't know how to learn. But I'm going to take it a step further. I'm not against collecting other people's PhDs like pink slips. So let me, while I just threw my ego out there for everybody, let me back that up a little bit. The idea of the false vacuum is this idea that the matrix structure of our universe, space-time, that I described earlier as this screen, is not actually empty. It's filled with energy. If that's the case, then that is a false vacuum. The true vacuum, the true nothingness would be if you removed space-time, the lattice structure. And what is that energy that makes up that lattice structure? 0-point energy. And flexing right now, flexing. They say the idea of the cosmological constant. We measure, we say, what's the energy density of the universe? The energy density of the universe is if I take this matrix structure, how much energy, how much 0-point energy is in there? How much energy is in the matrix structure of the universe? They say, well, here's the way we can solve that. Thermodynamics. Let's look into the sky and let's see how much heat there is. And we'll make a heat map. And that'll tell us how much energy is in the universe. We call it the cosmic microwave background. And it's wrong. That's not the amount of energy in space-time. It's woefully wrong. Because we know 0-point energy exists. Nobody's denying it. The problem is, how do you quantify how much energy that is? If there's all these little invisible waves and they can scale down to quantum levels, and all these tiny invisible waves, like white noise everywhere, how do you add that up to energy? Well, you can actually just use those equations that were just on the screen there. And the only question is, where do you take the cutoff in your wavelength? So most people will take the cutoff to be the Planck scale, which is the smallest possible thing that exists, the Planck scale. So if that's going to be our cutoff, and we do the calculations, and we say, okay, how much does all these little waves add up to? It's like 10 to the 120. It's, I don't even know, what do they say? 70 or 80 orders of magnitude, 80 zeros higher than the cosmic microwave background. We're not talking a significant difference here. We're talking straight up catastrophe. Straight up catastrophe. And that's what's going on in physics. And I'm here to save it for you. Here to save the day. Not in the good way, like in the Joker kind of way, where everybody learns a valuable lesson at the end of the day and nobody really is happy. So, what physics had to do to get rid of this problem is they had to do something called renormalization. They had to renormalize this 0-point. And they'd be like, yeah, you saying there's all this energy here, but I'm not seeing it. So we're going to just do some math and make it go away. If you think I'm joking, Google renormalization. Quite literally, we're just going to do some math and make it go away. And that's what they did. They made it go away. So that's why when you'll see this concept of renormalization get brought up, that's what people are alluding to. Now, one last part in this email. The main point is that we have many different descriptions for the concept of energy, and similarly speaking for 0-point energy, its regime of operability and discrepancies between observed and theoretical values. So they say, if we try to tap into this, we don't get this huge energy. But you're saying from the theory standpoint, it's this huge amount. So something, what's missing? What are we missing here? Who's right and what are we missing? We seem to feel comfort by the various existing definitions because those have provided great success in our day-to-day living. In addition to the technology we use, at the same time, believe that we have near a conclusive or even comprehensive understanding of energy would ultimately be a false premise and stand. Such stance could mean that in a large scale, we have solved our problem between quantum mechanics and general relativity, that we can easily traverse from the EFE back to the Schrodinger equation by shrinking scales. That force fields and our understanding of localizable points of matter are always simple mathematical extensions of one another. The point is that, conclusively speaking, the concept of energy is far from being a well-established constant, but varies from scale to scale, from which universal frame only exists as an epistemic understanding and not ontological in nature. Woohoo! Shit, chat. So she was just writing hot fire, spitting fire there. That was a she, right? Wait, was that a woman? If so, kind of breaks. Yeah, Carla kind of breaks the paradigm right there. I felt that in my bones. She's saying, we don't even know what energy is. We don't even know what energy is. This is why the number one, anybody ever tries to come at you about this, tries to say you're a kook for whatever, for believing this, first thing you say is, what is electricity? What is electricity? If you're going to come at me, talk down to me, you tell me what electricity is first. You can't even tell me what that is, then go sit down. Then go sit down. Because nobody really understands energy. We understand, and we have been slaved to this idea of thermodynamics. But what if there are loopholes to thermodynamics because of general relativity, because of quantum mechanics? We'll come to that back to that in a second. And the idea of quantum mechanics is something that specifically Pharis Williams highlights consistently when he talks about his 5-dimensional theory. It's clear that quantum mechanics, the unification of quantum mechanics and general relativity, is at the forefront of almost all of the unification theories that are out there, including the ones that we have reviewed. Now take a look at this email, another Epstein email here. To Jeffrey Epstein from Boris Nikolic. Some of the most interesting comments. Who is this from? Lowell Wood. That guy I was just talking about, the paper I was just showing you guys about producing gravitational radiation with nuclear bombs. Yeah, so there he is. There he is right there, BTW. So there's Lowell Wood. And here he is talking to this Boris guy because Boris apparently has left, get this, Bill Gates's foundation. Chat, our worlds are colliding right now. Worlds are colliding. Holy smokes. Worlds are colliding. So I don't know if there's a direct connection, but here's Bill Gates saying Boris decided to leave the foundation, some blah, blah, blah. And here's Lowell Wood saying, sorry they've come to this. Sorry matters have come to this. Please do let me know if there's anything that can possibly be done from my end of things to help out in any manner during your transitioning. Bro, I have left jobs where people weren't jerking me off this hard afterwards. This doesn't seem like a normal transition either. I'm just saying, like, this, the way he's obsessing about it. Then he sent a follow-up email. Like, okay, September 6th, that wasn't enough. So the next day, 3 a.m., I'm sure this is just because of time zones. If Lowell Wood was sending out 3 emails at 3 a.m., then I'm really concerned. Dear Boris, I'm still stunned that matters have come to this. I'm most deeply puzzled as how it's happened. What are we talking about here? I feel like this dude's talking about, like, he's got to, like, put his dog down or something. Like, how has it come to this? Like, bro, what are you talking about right now? It's not that hard. It's not that serious, buddy. I'm just leaving a charitable foundation. What are we talking about? Why are you acting like it's all, my life's over here? I most earnestly hope that you'll continue to be available into the foreseeable future to help out in real crises and emergencies from wherever you may be. Bro, what are they actually talking about here? What kind of organization is this? Do they think they're saving the world? This is how I imagine, like, Superman is, like, talking to Batman. They're like, yo, how has it come to this? We have to break up. The team is breaking up, chat. The Flash is leaving. He got an STD. The Flash got an STD, and he emailed me, and he said, hey, you got any antibiotics to give my wife? I was cheating on my wife. No, man. You got to stay with the Flash. Don't leave, Batman. Stay with it. By the way, that thing about the STD is totally real about Bill Gates. 100% real. Crazy, huh? Okay. He says, your total vanishing would leave a memory and wisdom hole of likely catastrophic dimensions. Were these guys gay for each other? Is this just all Brokeback? That's another explanation here. It could just be very Brokeback. Like, this is like you're breaking up with your girlfriend. Your girlfriend's leaving. It's like, this is like, I haven't seen glazing like this. If I get an email of somebody glazing me this hard, I'm going to have to leave a tip. Please do. Let me know what's most likely to happen between now and your departure time, and how I can possibly make this interval most productive, useful, preparatory for both you and Bill, as in Bill Gates. Yours in deep puzzlement and considerable consternation, Lowell. And then he just sends this to Epstein. He forwards that chain with just Epstein, just saying some of the most interesting comments. Chat. Yeah, no Diddy chat. This is one of the weirdest. You forget the time travel shit. Forget the, teleportation. This is the one where I'm looking at it, I'm going, you got Bill Gates on this chain. You got Lowell Wood, who is a nuclear weapons engineer working on the fusion bomb that was written up by the Jasons. And he's sitting out here glazing some Russian dude who was part of this foundation, being super cryptic about everything he says. And then the Russian dude is being super cryptic about it too. All I'm saying, what is this foundation? All I'm saying is whatever this foundation is, the FBI should be investigating this. What is this foundation, dude? Leave the foundation. And BGC3? I don't know. I don't have time to dig into all that tonight. But wow. What a series of evidence that we've put together here. You start with, hey, gravity waves are manipulating space-time, and here's this dude, Lowell Wood, who wrote the paper about it. It's only 2 pages long. Doesn't tell you how you do any of it, but there you go. And now here's Lowell Wood in email chains with Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein. Chat, drink to that. We live in a fucked up world, chat. That'll be my only F-bomb for the day, but we live in a fucked up world. Okay, one more. CC Jeffrey Epstein. This is I actually found out who this is from. This is from two different MIT physicists, or one's an MIT physicist, one's like a biology or something like that. But anyway, 2 MIT professors emailing one another with CC and Jeffrey Epstein. By the way, he financed them. We should explore the biological consequences of travel. It would be amusing to calculate the rate of evolution of a population or a mutant that can travel in time. Okay, question number 1. Or a mutant? Or who? What? Is there an X-Men? If there's an X-Men, you got to tell me. Look, just let's be real with one another. If there is an X-Men, a secret training facility, people with mutant powers, you got to tell us. If X-Men is based on true events, we got to know. Secondly, time travel. Because time travel is gravity manipulation. One and the same, one comes with the other. Think of it like this. The more you manipulate gravity, you can control how much you manipulate it. The more you control your dial of time, the rate that you experience time relative to other people. Now, for you, you'll always experience time normal. It always will be normal for you. You're not going to feel yourself stuck in slow motion, but you'll see other people in slow motion or in super speed, or it'll just appear like you teleported. That's what you can control. So this email implies that these people understood that concept. They were like, hey, if we can change the rate of dial, the rate of time, speed somebody's time up relative to our time, what would that do to evolution? What they're implying is we could speed evolution up. If I send you forward, if I speed up your time relative to my time, so I'm moving slower, you in theory could evolve at a super high rate and then become more advanced than we are right now. In fact, this is the whole plot of the first season of the Three Body Problem. The super advanced aliens are coming here, so advanced that we have no chance whatsoever against them. But by the time they get here, we will already be more advanced than they are. Because that's how you should think about time travel. Think about it like if you were to speed up a civilization and how quickly they would evolve, and then how quickly they would evolve beyond you. And then if they were to then synchronize back up with your time, they would now be more evolved than you are. There you go. Interesting, huh? Okay, what else we got here? Now, I want to go back to this for a second. We're going to move. Actually, a little quick break. I'm going to switch gears. One more thing that I wanted to show you guys was from, I've been saying that they have been trying to steal the narrative, so to speak. And I'm not trying to be one of those paranoid people that's trying to say that, yeah, they're trying to steal my narrative. I've never really been one to be too paranoid about people coming after me or listening or spying or anything like that. Just don't care, frankly. But there is clearly an intentional narrative theft that is being unleashed upon us right now. The people that thought teleportation was silly, the people that have been saying, and I have talked to a lot of UFO people when I went to these conferences, and I asked them, do you think the United States government has figured out any of this technology? And I would resoundingly hear back, no. No, they haven't figured any of it out. We would know if they had it figured out. Now we've got Jeremy Corbell dropping 3 orb videos, perfect triangle orb videos, while he just ignores the MH370 videos. And now we've got Ross Coulthart has got to be the most shameless. A guy that went so far as to call me out last year, got all his facts wrong while trying to call me out, who talks about way more silly topics, you know, mind reading insectoid aliens and shit like this, is now doing a 180. He's now coming over to the way of the 4 orbs. Okay, go ahead. Tell us, Ross. That's the perfect image right there for Ross, by the way, right there. Oh, hold on. I got to change the share and you're not going to be able to hear it. Here we go.
It defies explanation that the United States, which expends trillions of dollars every year on national defense, would not have made huge advances in aerospace technology, particularly if, as we believe, they've recovered non-human craft and had them since at least the 1950s. I do think that there is a strong probability that the United States has developed some type of electrogravitic propulsion, if not some kind of energy system derived from zero-point energy. Why are they keeping that secret? I have no idea. But are they going to make an announcement? Not anytime soon, I suspect. It defies...
Okay. He revealed himself there, chat. He revealed himself there. Did you know exactly where he revealed himself? Now he's saying the government has figured out 0-point energy technologies and possibly energy source. What? And I already know he's going to pretend like he never said anything otherwise. So he's like, I never said anything otherwise. Try to find a quote of me saying it. And when we do find a quote, he'll be like, that was then, and I've changed my opinions now. These fucking people, bro. But this is where you catch him out from that clip. He says, I have no idea why. What? You have no idea why the government wouldn't tell us the truth about UFO technology, let's just call it? How about free energy forever collapses our entire way of living from an economic perspective? How about the fact that this weaponry obsoletes all other technology? You have basically a trump card against everybody. Is that not a big enough reason to hide it? If those aren't big enough reasons, then how about a bunch of people that voted for Kamala Harris are going to blow their brains out? Because they're not going to be able to live in a world where they were lied to so easily for so long. Heck, maybe even some people that didn't vote for her too. I'm just making a point. Some people are quite literally going to have a psychological break. The fact that he can't list one reason for why the government would hide it proves that he's just pushing a narrative. His narrative is, oh, shit, we got to switch it up. We got to switch it up and start saying that 0-point energy is real now, because otherwise, when it becomes real, everybody's going to gravitate towards this Ashton guy who's been talking about it for 2 years when everybody else has said it's insignificant, it's not real, it doesn't matter. Just the ground state doesn't do anything. Now they're jumping on board because when it is proven to be real, they know vindication train is coming. And they're going to be sitting tied to the tracks. Choo-choo! Choo-choo! MH370X train is coming, Ross Coulthart. We're coming for you. Ross Coulthart. I want you, Ross Coulthart. Okay. Yeah, we're catching those pink slips. If only he had something for us to take, chat. If only. But he doesn't. You know what? Okay, one more clip. I was gonna save this for Wednesday, but before I start talking more physics, which I've done a lot tonight, here is AJ, the Y-Files. I actually got into a little public spat with AJ's brother Gino. I like both of them actually, but let's be honest, they're afraid to talk about the MH370 topic. And you say, no, they're not, Ashton. Come on, man. Just watch this clip.
Sweet. He's my favorite because his inventions, he videotaped all of his stuff. And you see him in his workshop.
Hold on. That's not the right one. Although that's interesting. Wait, where's... Oh, this is the one. Here we go. This is the one I wanted.
Are you convinced that the U.S. government is totally transparent about energy?
No, I think they're totally opaque about energy.
Really? Tell me.
Oh, yes. I think the U.S. government...
Honestly, whatever the beef, shout out to AJ. This seems like actually something really simple. To us, this seems like trivial. We look at this, we go, is the government clear about energy? No, they're covering up energy. Do you guys not get it? They're covering up an energy source. So bravo to AJ to just say that. That's the first step. Because then the questions that follow up, what energy source? How is that possible?
Probably has unlocked 0-point or close to 0-point energy, which would be pulling energy out of the vacuum. We have inventors that have done that over and over and over.
And making energy of apparently nothing.
Well, we can start with, there's a man named Charles Pogue, who in the 30s tinkered with his carburetor and was able to get 200 miles a gallon. It's proven. It was engineers, investigated, scientists. It's totally proven. It worked. He was going to be a zillionaire or whatever. He's going to transform society.
Well, okay. I mean, that's fine. That's all. That honestly, that's the only part of the clip that I wanted to get. But here's the thing: it's not energy from nothing. It's not energy from nothing. From our perception, it's energy from nothing. But that's like saying we live in an empty vacuum. We don't live in an empty vacuum. It's not energy from nothing. We just don't quite understand what energy even is. We don't understand what it is. So what we're saying here is that this space-time energy, there is a way to tap into it. And so AJ gives an explanation. He gives an example. I think he talks about Stanley Meyer, water power car. And he says this guy figured out how to use water power a car. Somehow there's a tie between 0-point energy and this mechanism because he's claiming over unity. So there must be some other energy source, assuming the energy source is 0-point energy. So then, if you're a scientist, the question you should ask is, what is the underlying source? How is that energy getting? If we are Richard Feynman, we're asking the why question. You say, okay, why is the government hiding this? We explain it. How does this technology work? Okay, it's 0-point energy. How are they tapping in? What is the physics framework that allows us to tap into the 0-point energy at this fundamental level? And the answer to that question is the ground state of the hydrogen atom. If we just take one atom of hydrogen, simplify your nuclear bomb down to just one hydrogen, and we say, how is the electron spinning around this atom? There's so much energy. Why is it not just radiating that energy away? And we realize each atom is pulling a tiny little bit of energy from that 0-point energy. Each one is. So then you would say, well, okay, now we've figured out the fundamental framework. What is the core concept that allows it? Now what do we have to do? Well, we were just looking at it in that scientific paper. Now we have to take that individual atom. We're going to extract this tiny, insignificant amount of energy. And we got to scale that up. We got to scale that up. And the best way to do that is plasma. Because plasma is like taking all those little atoms and having them all in a cluster together and treating them like a liquid. Treating it like a liquid of atoms, of ions and electrons, a soup, if you will. What I'm saying is that if you boil it straight down to its grass roots, probably the most efficient way, the most direct way to extract 0-point energy, probably fusion. Probably fusion. Because you can indirectly manipulate the lattice structure to get past the Coulomb barrier in fusion. That's where you can use that free energy, the lattice structure, to get actual real energy out that's usable for us. Don't think about it in terms of extracting 0-point energy to use the 0-point energy. Think of it in terms of we have this energy source of the lattice structure. What can we do with that lattice structure that can give us real practical output? This is why I'm all in on aneutronic fusion. Because when you boil it down, any logical person, just like I concluded, will conclude that plasma is going to be your best way to interact with the 0-point energy. And what is everybody doing to produce energy with plasma? They're doing fusion. They're all doing fusion. And this means there is a way to test this. The best physics theories are testable. And this one is too. When we start producing fusion, we're going to see more energy output. In fact, fusion will likely act like a tap, where depending on how dense you get your plasma, how powerful you get this gravitational effect, you can pull more and more energy out of space-time. And at some point, from a theoretical perspective, there would be a limit to how much energy you could pull out of a region of space-time. Because you pulling the energy out, imagine like you're pulling water out of the ocean and then the water fills in the gap. But in theory, if you pull the water out fast enough, it would not be able to fill in the gap quick enough. This same theory, this hydrodynamic theory, also applies to the ether, to the space-time energy. So this means that there probably is some limit to how much energy can get pulled out of a region of volume of space-time. Okay, I've primed us for our final segment of the night. Now, Pharis Williams. We've spoken extensively about Pharis Williams. What I wanted to do tonight was to look at some of the scientific equations and papers related to Maxwell's equations and what are the impacts, from Pharis Williams' own words, of this 5D theory. If you add this extra dimension, what does this do to general relativity? What does this do to electrodynamics? What are the impacts of all of this? So, this is where this kind of came back. Now, remember, we were just talking about, was it Los Alamos? Did I get Lawrence Livermore and Los Alamos confused earlier? I don't know. Whatever. Either way, you get the point. Pharis Williams, this was that UFO. What do we even call this thing? I don't even know if this even has a name. This was from the UFO hearing that got submitted. Pharis Williams has several indirect ties to UAP research. Los Alamos colleague Oak Shannon told a journalist in 2019, if we were to build an anti-gravitational device, it would be built on the principles involved in Williams's theory. I mean, chat. That's a pretty big endorsement. Nuclear physicist from Los Alamos is like, yeah, if we built any anti-gravitational devices, it's going to be based on this guy's 5-dimensional theory. Because you're going to move the medium to travel instead of using conventional rocket propulsion or something like that. Okay, so let's go back to this. We don't need this one anymore. Which one do I want to go to first? One more thing I wanted to point out related to our Bible here on this. Which thing did I want to mention here? I called those folks because Nick Cook in The Hunt for Zero Point Energy mentions that at UW received a NASA contract to study theories of inertia as part of its BPP program. When we think about inertia, inertia can be explained as zero-point energy as well. Inertia is the resistance you feel while moving through the zero-point energy. That's a good place to start, I thought, but it took a backtracking to BPP project director Mark Millis, author of the Bible, BTW, Mark Millis at NASA's Glenn Research Center in Cleveland to find Dr. John Kramer at the UW Physics Department. Kramer's mission was to confirm with partner James Woodward the latter's 1996 preliminary research into the loss of gravitational mass in a targeted piece of metal from oscillating capacitors. Wow. All of our goats, chat, all of our goats are nuclear engineers and nuclear physicists, and they all just love gravity research. Just a coincidence, though. Probably just a coincidence that all the nuclear physicists all of gravity research. But could there be a connection between fusion, nukes, atoms, and then gravity manipulation? I'm just asking questions, guys. I'm just jacking off over here. Okay. Sorry, let's close this. Now, 3 different papers, and I've got kind of some summaries to go through. So how are we going to do this? Let's start with... let's start with this. Okay, perfect. So this, what page are we on? 32. This right here is electric propulsion study. Those of you MFers out there, those haters out there who've been doubting, get buckled up. You're about to get rocked right now. This right here, electric propulsion study by the Air Force. Boom. Electric propulsion study, what year is it? 1990 or something like this? 1992? 1990. By Franklin Mead, project manager. Wait, does it talk about Williams? The author wishes to thank Dr. Pharis Williams and the other tireless theoreticians who have spent years slowly working and removing the rocks from the difficult path to the unified field theory, as others idly stand by complaining that the road is too rough to travel and may never lead anywhere. You guys have no idea how much pleasure I am going to take when I rip that Pulitzer Prize up live on stream in front of at least a dozen people, probably in the year 2045 or something like that. Because no doubt, you guys think that the author of Electric Propulsion Study that wrote this for the Air Force for one of their top special projects, guys, he's thanking Pharis Williams, the guy that corrected the thermonuclear weapons calculations, He's thanking that guy because he's saying that nobody else is trying to unify physics, but this dude is doing it. Go to page 32. Williams has advanced 5D theory starting from thermodynamics. This is a unique approach that does not appear to have been stated elsewhere. He has combined the thermodynamic laws with mechanical systems to give a unified 5D theory. I'm going to ignore a lot of the equations because I forget all the characters and what have you. But here you go. Here's all the different equations. People say, show us the math. This has all of the math. I don't want to hear people say the math. The math is like, I might be one of the only people on the earth showing the math. Okay. So he shows, what does that mean? Development of 5D EM equations. One goal is to basically take Maxwell's equations and we want to understand what physical effects we should expect by adding a 5th dimension. So when we do this here, this is what we're taking our variables and we're saying, okay, we're going to add an extra dimension. So now you have up, down, left, right, back and forth. You have time. And now we're going to add this extra lattice structure, this superstructure dimension that we can't perceive, but it's there. What does that do to the equations? That's what this is saying here. So down here, he's saying, if we take this, we now can make a matrix. Now, if you've learned from physics, we've learned that in order to express dimensions and the vectors along those dimensions, we need matrix. Matrices are really great for doing this because matrices can tell you where things are relative to other things. Great. Okay, so we're going to use this matrix, add a 5D analog. So it says, now, these can be now utilized to derive 5D analogs to classical Maxwell expressions. By using this identity, Bianchi, or whatever, Bianchi, we now achieve our 4 field equations. So by doing this, we now find our new Maxwell equations. So if you are not keeping up, we said, okay, we're going to take a 5D, 5-dimensional theory, and we're going to say, we're going to make a matrix out of it. just like people did with four-dimensional theory. And we're going to say, what does this mean for what does this mean for Maxwell's electrodynamics? Maxwell's electromagnetic equations. And the first two equations are exactly the same. First two are exactly the same. The last two indicate there is a new role played by the mass terms. Notice that a constant A is introduced specifically to indicate the degree of coupling between the electromagnetic fields and the inertial fields. Additional equations are obtained from the current density expression. And three additional equations. It says equation 101, this one in the middle, will become important in locating new effects. So now we're saying, okay, we've got a new 5D framework, new electromagnetic equations. Can we predict? Can we predict things? The electric field from the region now depends both on the charge density and the change in density. Uh-oh. Wow. Now the field is determined by the density of your charge. Why does that matter? Remember, dense plasma. All plasma is a bunch of charge. So the denser you get it, that seems to be the secret. And here we're seeing the density is now going to impact the electromagnetic equations and the change in mass density. And the change in mass density represents gravitational waves. If I were to increase my density in a region and then decrease it rapidly, you would expect a gravitational ripple. Just like if I were to put a black hole here and then make the black hole disappear and then make the black hole come back, you would expect a gravitational ripple, right? I loved it. This is my favorite part, actually, I think, when he explaining the Maxwell's equations. Okay, notice that J, I equals 0, 1, 2, and 3 are the classical charge density or currents, and then J4 is a new entity, which is a mass density-like flow, and dependent on the exact assignment of the fifth coordinate. Okay. Likewise, it says here that, this expression is important in looking for non-conservation of charge. So we get this new equation. So we're doing a bunch of transformations with the math here. The only assumption that has been made is that there is a fifth dimension. And it says this term is important because now we're looking for non-conservation of charge. We're looking, can we break conservation rules? And you say, Ashton, what's a conservation rule? Conservation says if I take something from over here, then it must reappear over here. Nothing can be created nor destroyed. The conservation rule is what we're looking for. Is there a way to cheat and bring the airplane of energy to me? Is there a way to get around our perception of the laws of thermodynamics? And he says, okay, here's two more equations. The 5D forces become these equations for particles of velocity v. Notice the scalar-like force that modifies the classic Lorentz force. Now we have a scalar term that is modifying our classical Lorentz forces. So what we've got here is we've added another variable to this equation that can change the others. This is important because what we've contested is that these effects only show up when you get to very high levels. Once you get to these very high energy densities, when you get to these voltages that I think are in hundreds of thousands of volts, where you'll now, because of your charge density, you will now begin to see and be able to measure some of these effects. But only when you get near that threshold, because the fabric is so tight of our reality. Okay. To better understand the expected charge due to the added physical dimension, we must look at some special cases without any mass in free space. And now we say if the electromagnetic fields could be removed, the equations become these. Oh, so what he's saying here is that if we simplify our scenario, if we take our 5D example and simplify our scenario, we just take like a point charge, the equations reduce back down to Maxwell's equations. This is a huge point. What they're saying right here is the reason why we don't see this day to day is because if you ignore this, if you're not near the threshold where these effects appear, then Maxwell's equations are basically what you have today, what we work with and what we see today. This is essentially saying this 5-dimensional effect only is visible under the certain conditions. That's huge. That to me is absolutely massive. And for it now to say, okay, we reduce this back down and it reduces back down to exactly Maxwell's simplified equations, that's in minimum a proof that this theory at least fits with observational reality. Okay. Let's see. What else did I want to see here? Equations 111, which is up here, this one. And I think this is the scaling term here. I think that's what this weird character, hold on, let's see what it says. 111 and 102 can be used to help understand V4 and J4. So V4 and J4, I think these were the scalars that we were seeing, the gravitational waves. From these, it is apparent that they are functions linear with respect to the added dimension. From equation 112, it is seen that the divergence in mass from a point is impossible in the absence of charge and magnetic effects. This rules out photon-photon reactions via virtual charge pairs. Such terms have plagued QED calculations. I actually didn't fully understand this, but I think he's saying here that this will help us understand why we see potential effects with the Aharonov-Bohm effect. Could be wrong, but that's kind of the gist I got from that. Not yet at the full S tier physics yet, guys. I'm working. Okay. Now, the first two equations remained unchanged, indicating no monopoles. This would mean no monopoles in free space, but this doesn't necessarily mean there can't be a monopole from a teleportation standpoint. Okay, let's see. I'm going to read this part here. It's interesting to note that Milne pointed out the need to modify just these two Maxwell expressions. He arrived at slightly different terms due to alternate assumptions concerning two time-like coordinates. His viewpoint was that strict relativistic AB initio theories must consider the possibility that in a moving reference frames, it is impossible to use a moving test charge to measure a magnetic field without its own velocity relative to the other velocities. What he's saying here is that it's very difficult to test relativity because in your own reference frame, everything always looks normal to you. This is the trick to relativity, is that somebody can teleport relative to me, but relative to them, it just looks like they're walking through a door. This is the big rub. So how do you test something like that? Well, you teleport an airplane and then you record it on both sides. That's literally what you do. You teleport an airplane and record it on both sides. Okay. This is another point that I should have mentioned here earlier in the above paragraph. So equation 118 modifies Gauss's law to state that the flux through a closed surface is proportional to the charge inside only if there's no mass density charge within that region. In other words, the effect of particle creation and annihilation within a region must be considered when calculating the flux from a volume. Boom! Drop the mic. Holy shit. How does nobody read this and know what they're... I swear, we're the only people that read these. What this is saying here, if you're making a bomb, if you're making a nuke, it's not just the lithium and the hydrogen you have to consider. If 5D theory is correct, You must also consider the effect of particle creation and annihilation within the region. What is that? That's the 0-point energy. Particle creation and annihilation is the virtual particle pairs that we talk about in physics, the virtual particle pairs. That is the 0-point energy. That particle pair creation, that's the Schwinger limit. When you break the Schwinger limit and the virtual particle pairs become real photons. Quite interesting. Conversely, calculation of a mass within a volume must consider the possible flow of electromagnetic energy within the volume. It can be argued that Gauss's law implies a 1 divided by r squared potential, and any new terms would alter that potential. The effects are very subtle or appear only in high mass density regions. The new potential does not have divergences, as does the 1 divided by r squared. Likewise, the magnetic field can now arise from the changes in the electric flux, the movement of the charges, and the change from the voltage arising from the mass effects. I think that's what that V stands for. Wow. Wow. It lays it all out right there. Do you guys see why I needed to read this for you? It's not just me saying this. Papers from the 1990s by the Air Force Research Labs have been saying this. They're saying it right there. The reason why the calculations for the nuclear bomb were 50% lower, whatever the percentage is, were so low, is because they forgot to calculate the 0-point energy within the volume. Boom. Felony physics, motherfucker. Whoop, whoop. Lock me up. Woo, 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 woo. Send me to federal pound you in the ass prison, baby. Because we ain't done. Not only am I going to continue tonight, but my next step, now that I know what this is all about, how long do you think it will take me to figure out the exact resonant frequency that they use to make this all go down? Because we already figured out the geometry, right? I mean, that part's easy. Have everything cancel out. But the next part is, how did they make the plane link up with this location? What resonant frequency did they use to have this get perfectly aligned with that? What frequency did they use to have the orb spin around the plane at that exact rate? Because that exact rate of spin is important. And these are the numbers that they don't want people to know about, because these resonant frequencies are what really allows you to build something that, can do like we saw happen to MH370. Okay, let me look back at this. And here you go. He says, this concept is very important. It seems to have been totally ignored in the current literature and only appeared in Milne's work. The idea is theoretic insight directly into the heart of the understanding of charge. Here we have a case of fundamental physical theory relying on the existence of a physically impossible quantity. Charge is unique that it is quantized, and the number of fundamental carriers is relativistic and probabilistic invariant within all physical reality. So we look at this and we look at charge and we say we can connect general relativity to electromagnetism using this extra dimension. Here it is. And everybody seems to have just ignored it. Didn't give it the time of the day. And here's the Air Force saying this is the answer. I mean, you guys listen or don't listen, but here's the answer. So we need to modify the electromagnetic equations. Let me see. What were the main points on this? I didn't have a chance to read through this before the stream again. There was something else in here. It's interesting to note that all plausible variations of Maxwell's equations investigated here had variations in just these two equations. This was true regardless of the theoretical starting point. It is highly recommended that any experimental project hoping to capitalize on modifying Maxwell's equations concentrate on these two equations. Targeting these two relations is most likely to demonstrate any coupling between electromagnetism and other forces. So here they are. So this, and again, this is not just a document about Williams. This is the document about all of them. So it goes on to lay out how these forces are significant, how the waves are going to propagate in 5-dimensional space. And, you know, ideally, if this is real, if this is true, then this explains our entire reality. And down here, it says the limits of the conversion rates. Now, what did I just tell you? I told you that because we have to take into account the space juice, how much space juice is in a volume of empty space. This means that there's a rate limit too. If we were to pull that energy out, then the most we could ever pull out is how much space juice is in one volume. That's the most we could ever pull out before it refills back in. So whatever that is, there is some rate that we're going to be limited. Now, this might be good news because it's going to make it harder to make a black hole that destroys us all. Not impossible, just a little bit harder. That's all. Okay, let's go to the other paper I wanted to show. This one's a lot shorter, so we're not going to go through all this tonight. Oh, and one more thing I want to read here is just to show you that Pharis Williams was talking. This is Pharis Williams talking about the history on this paper. This paper by Pharis Williams is Energy and Entropy as the Fundamentals of Theoretical Physics. And here he says the quantum theoretical treatment of this case is as follows. So he's talking about this idea of linking quantum mechanics to gravity. G is what he's talking about here. Only after an infinite time has passed away is the wave supply inside G exhausted, while the outside wave is spread over an ever-increasing space. He's talking about treating gravity as these ripples through this extra dimension. So I just wanted to bring this up because it's clear if you try to understand how was someone able to figure this out, what theories did they use to unify it? It's clear that quantum mechanics played an essential role in these people's theories, especially when they realized that charge can be quantized. Charge being able to be quantized means that it's scale invariant. Means that whatever we're seeing on the quantum scales is also true on the larger scales. And that is absolutely huge because now it gives us a metric. It gives us a ruler by which we can measure effects on any scale. Okay. Now this paper, Dynamic Theory, Some Shock Wave and Energy Implications. Now look at the word shock wave. The shock waves and the bubbles of the plasma sheaths that the government was using for hypersonics were likely the beginnings of this research, because they start to see these plasma waves forming in their sheath and they start to see these effects. So not only do they see it from nukes, but they're seeing it in the plasma sheaths they're putting on our spy planes. Dynamic theory, a unifying 5-dimensional theory of space-time matter, is examined. The theory predicts an observed discrepancy between shock wave viscosity measurements at the low and high pressures in aluminum, a limiting mass-to-energy conversion rate consistent with the available data, and reduced pressures in electromagnetically contained controlled fusion plasmas. Ooh, that last one, baby. So you're writing a paper about your unification theory, and you're like, there's 3 things I want you to know about. 3 things. 1, shock waves are going to act differently. You're going to see different plasma shockwave behavior, number 1. Number 2, converting this energy, this 0-point energy, there is a conversion rate There may be a limit to it. And then number 3, you're going to want to know the impacts on fusion. Turns out this 5-dimensional theory heavily impacts fusion. Okay, so the viscosity one, I'm going to kind of skip over this, but as you can see, the idea is that this shock wave is going to function slightly differently now in a 5-dimensional manifold than it would function without. So this is going to speak to things like stability of our plasma. The one I wanted to dig into, though, is rate of mass conversion. Now, I already spoke about this one, but I'm just going to read this first paragraph. In nuclear weapons and reactors, mass is converted into energy. However, Einstein's theory, which predicts the energy released in this conversion, says nothing about the rate at which this conversion can or does proceed. On the other hand, the dynamic theory not only provides an additional equation of motion that can be solved to find the mass conversion rate as a fluctuation, as a function of time, but it predicts a limiting rate of mass conversion. The question addressed here is, what is the limiting rate and how does it compare with experimentally achieved rates? If the experimental rates exceed the predicted limit, then something is wrong. If, on the other hand, the predicted limiting rate is not seen experimentally, then its existence is still possible. Wow. So right there, that I love that as a physicist, because he's saying, think of this 0 point energy like a tap. And also think of just in general, converting mass into energy. You can convert mass into energy, but how fast? How fast can you convert mass into energy? There is a limiting rate by which you can do that. And how do you even determine these things? He's saying that Einstein's equations can't even determine these things because they're missing the required elements. But the 5th dimension, add that in, and now you can convert these. Now you can calculate these things. To me, that's very powerful evidence. And just like it said, this should be testable. We are now onto the physics that they're testable things. People are probably testing them, at least some of them. Okay. So then he does his calculations and he says, here's your example for uranium and the maximum rate that you can get. Thus, the fastest gram of uranium may be converted into energy as 1.7 ps. Picoseconds, I don't know. This time is very short, considering that this time is several orders of magnitude larger than the minimum time possible for the fissioning of one atom. Electromagnetically contained ionized plasmas. I'm just going to read this part, I think. Controlled fusion programs use variations of electromagnetic containment of ionized plasmas. Dynamic theory predicts forces on these plasmas and pressures generated that are important to various fusion programs. This is where I start rubbing my hands together. Please, sir. What do you predict from your 5-dimensional theory? The 5-dimensionality of the theory provides an additional equation of motion that becomes effective when mass is no longer conserved. Thus, the theory may offer a better description of the actual fusion process than current theories do. Any implications of the theory using this additional equation of motion during the actual mass conversion have not yet been explored. Hence, we're not digging into the limitations of doing fusion and pulling the energy out of the vacuum yet. On the other hand, conservation of mass embeds a 4-dimensional hypersurface in the 5-dimensional space and provides 2 implications for fusion systems before mass conversion. Both derive from the fact that within the dynamic theory, the energy momentum transfer for matter under the influence of electromagnetic forces has 2 parts. The first part is relativistic energy momentum transfer, like running into something. And the second part contains the geometric properties of the embedded hypersurface. So what he's saying here is there's 2 things that go on in fusion, and you already know which one's been left out. The first one, things flying around, hitting each other. That's how we pretty much only figure out fusion right now. Energy momentum transfer. This one's moving really fast. This one's moving really fast. They hit each other. But there's something else. The other one is the geometric properties of the embedded hypersurface. If you were to shrink the geometry, now two objects that were further apart are now closer together than they were before. This is written by Pharis Williams. That's the person who this guy corrected the thermonuclear weapons calculations. Corrected them, if you're missing it. The first implication for fusion systems lies in the additional forces that must be considered as a result of this geometric term in the energy transfer. He's saying you now need to consider the space-time structure. You need to consider this 5 dimensions now, this geometric shape. These forces also depend on the energy density gradient, as does the viscosity. So what he's saying here is that it's not just how much energy is packed into this region. Where is the energy localized? It also means is the energy focused right here and then it disperses and gets less and less energy as you get further away? Or is it all uniform, all the same energy density? That answer to that question changes the outcome. Changes the outcome. Because these forces have the multiplicative term, the density gradient components must be large, therefore they are evident. The geometric term in the energy momentum transfer also predicts reduced pressures in the plasma as a result of electromagnetic pressure. This right here, I think, speaks to the high beta concept. Lower pressure than is predicted. We might be able to get fusion to happen with lower magnetic field strengths, given this theory. Note that the dynamic theory predicts a reduction in the pressure dependent on the mass density gradient. The value of the constant determined previously by the shock data indicates the density gradient could produce a 10% pressure reduction. So, I think we looked at some of his other work, but to me, this speaks to the idea that we might have A, easier to produce fusion at lower temperatures, and B, we might be able to get away with using less magnetic field strengths. And this is the idea of the high beta concept, that we can create this well, and that we can create a ratio of plasma pressure to magnetic field pressure that approaches 1, unity. Now, let me just read this last part. Acknowledgements. The author is grateful to many people, especially Vice Admiral Kinnard R. McKee, U.S. Navy, for the encouragement and criticism they provided during the development of the dynamic theory. Special acknowledgement is given to J.M. Walsh, who encouraged application of the theory to the viscosity of shocked solids. To B.G. Craig, who encouraged this analysis of theory for implications, and Karen Peterson for assistance in preparing this manuscript. Karen, shout out to you, Karen, the lost person that was forgotten. Karen, who wrote this up. You know what? You get some credit too, Karen. Now, I bring this up. These are some pretty big names. I don't think there's a lot of physicists on the planet that could say that vice admirals are helping them with their physics papers. Vice admirals. And the point is, why would you have vice admirals and these other people that are like, you know, DOE, Department of Energy, nuclear weapons physics? Why are these the people that are promoting you? Because they're the people in the know. They're the people that know about our weapons. They know what our weapons can do. So when people tell you we have the ability to manipulate space and we have technologies beyond public comprehension, they're just telling you the absolute truth, fam. They're telling you the absolute truth. So to close this out tonight, before we go to our super chats, I want to play this clip from Tom Bearden again to bring it all together. How do we manipulate gravity? We create a scalar potential, as we saw in the 5D theory. How do we create the scalar potential? You take two electromagnetic waves, cancel them out. 180 degrees out of phase, meaning they're going in opposite directions. But there's not nothing left. We learned there's a stress in the medium that's left. We imagine this stress in the medium, or we see the physical effects of this stress in the medium as gravity. So now we understand the basis for gravity manipulation. Create some scalar potentials. That doesn't tell us how we can control it, but they tell us how we can go add to the noise. Let's listen to Tom Bearden again.
That's no longer.
Because Tom Bearden was talking about this before everybody. And not just a little before everybody, like a lot before everybody. And now that we understand what he meant, this will make a whole lot more sense.
We have a new kind of electromagnetics, a third kind, and I have dubbed that scalar electromagnetics. In quantum mechanics, when the electric field...
So already we hear scalar. Already we know he's linking it to quantum mechanics here. And he's saying we have a new term, the same new term that showed up in Pharis Williams' modified Maxwell's equations.
And the magnetic field reduced to zero in an area, you still may have the potentials.
So even if you remove the electromagnetic field, even if you cancel out your waves, the potentials, the stress in the medium still exists. The stress in the rubber band still exists. And what we learned from the Aharonov-Bohm effect is you can argue the potentials are the only real thing. The fields aren't doing anything. It's the potentials that are doing it, even though we can't even see them.
And if these potentials, which are the real things going on, interfere with each other, you can have real effects still.
Keep it mad real.
Produced in charged particle systems, real physical systems. In 1959, a classic paper by Aharonov and Bohm in Physical Review pointed this out very strongly. And since then, part of that has come to be called the Bohm-Aharonov effect, or sometimes the Aharonov-Bohm effect.
Chat, he's such a goat that they used to call it Bohm-Aharonov effect, even though now it's only known as the Aharonov-Bohm effect.
If we can make this effect exist in the big world, they think it exists only in the micro world. We can get action at a distance. That's no longer a dirty word. I'm going to show you how to change the mass and inertia of an object.
By BTW, I think we reviewed the other day that it wasn't until the 90s when Japan finally proved the Aharonov-Bohm effect beyond any doubt. So this is from 1985, this video. This is Tom Bearden talking about the Aharonov-Bohm effect before it was even proven, when most mainstream physicists didn't want to believe that it was real because the Aharonov-Bohm effect destroys the classical interpretation of physics. Keep that in mind when you want to doubt this guy.
Affect its rate of flow through time, affect the gravitational field, and so forth. You do this by making a zero system. You oppose the vectors so that they sum to zero, but they are still there in the substructure. With this simple mechanism, with few coils and transistors and so forth, by making deliberate zeros, we can deliberately engineer the Schrodinger equation, and we can deliberately affect the probabilities of quantum mechanics. The hidden variable theory now becomes directly engineerable. What had been statistical before now becomes at least partly deterministic.
And what's so beautiful about it is that we say we don't know where the photon, where the electron is going to go in our EPR experiments. We just get a random probability wave. And what Tom Bearden is saying is that if you start making these scalar beams, these zeros, these intentional zeros, the stress in the medium, you can actually change the probability of that waveform. Before, you had a normal distribution of the probability where that photon is going to show up. And now, by making these scalar potentials, you can actually change that probability. That is the very beginning, the very opening the door up to teleportation, because now you figured out there's a way to engineer quantum entanglement. There's a way to link points together. We don't know exactly how, but I know I can start sending things through here, and things are starting to happen over here in some random location. So, okay, guys, that's going to be our stream for tonight. I want to go through and thank some of these super chats because you guys have been amazing tonight. And the pill chat has been going on fire. P-Quest gifts the cookie. Nom nom. Delicious cookie, P-Quest. Thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate you. No question, but that's fine. John Glock, who's been in there for a while. I see Methyl out there as well. He says, John Glock, Tom Bearden made a great analogy with the problem in physics regarding energy. I'm in my boat in a huge ocean with massive winds moving all around. But if that wind doesn't hit my sails, well, then the wind doesn't exist. Shout out to the Draxi. That's a great example, is that, I mean, if we just don't see it, it doesn't exist, right? Really makes you wonder about some of this stuff. And then he has a follow-up. I wonder if Pharis Williams and Tom Bearden ever worked together. Well, that's funny you mentioned that, because somewhere on one of my back things here, I have the notes from Oak Shannon. Oak Shannon was confirmed very good friends with Pharis Williams. And in the notes from 1985, Oak Shannon's notes with Hal Puthoff, I don't know where it is exactly right now, but he says they should look into Tom Bearden's stuff in the notes. Says Tom Bearden's name. I was wondering, reading that, I was like, are they going to talk about Tom Bearden? Boom. There he is in the bottom. So, yeah, pretty sweet. And thank you guys very much in the Rumble chat. I appreciate all your guys' support. Skeptards, the ankle biters, explorers, and dreamers. Yeah. And we shouldn't be too hard on the skeptards, guys, because some of them will make it through the filter. I'm not going to lie. Some of them, NGMI, not going to make it. Some of them are not going to make it. Some of them will make it through the filter, and they will come out better. And we should accept them into our brotherhood, into our cult of 0 point energy. Pray to our high priest. Get them a Bible. Get them a Bible. Let them renounce the old ways. Renounce the old ways. And, whatever you do. Okay. Wow, huge donation from Tony Allenson. Just $50. That's out. Thank you very much. Appreciate you very much for that super sticker. Tony, you're the bomb. Broadway line, Professor Forbes chat. I mean, maybe I am going to be Professor Forbes at this rate. I thought there's no way I would ever be a teacher in this world. Here I am, 400 live streams later. John says, gravity is the force felt by the motion of the ether into electrons that maintain lost energy of the orbits. And so what John's saying here is that if you really break it down, like do the same thing with gravity that we did with the atom absorbing energy from the 0 point. And he would say that you can actually measure the gravity that's being produced by the atom, by the electrons in their orbitals. And that this gravity that we feel in the large scale also works exactly the same on these very tiny scales. Unification, my dudes. Tyler, Boris is Epstein. No, I don't think I think that's some Russian guy, but man, how weird was that email? That email about Lowell Wood just glazing Boris, some Russian guy, with all his cryptic messages, calling back the next day. Why are you still leaving? Why are you leaving me? Weird, dude. Timothy Foster, DJT stock is just the right thing to be in. Carry on, Dimensions rock. Yeah, so if you want to be in these stocks, the companies that I recommend, either DJT, which just absorbed Tri-Alpha Energy, the oldest fusion company that definitely knows about this, or Helion Fusion. They're not public yet, though, is the problem. The other ones, like Commonwealth, I mean, Bill Gates is in Commonwealth, and I just don't like Bill Gates. I mean, we just saw that email earlier. So, plus, they don't seem to be doing aneutronic fusion. So, unless they pull a switcheroo at the last moment, I don't know what's going on with Commonwealth. That's my full opinion for you all. Thank you, Timothy. Jaleel Robinson, we covered a lot in this stream. We really did. And then Barty Welding, I got warrants, science warrants, save Pharis. Recap, Fusion bombs are manipulating space-time because the more energy density into a smaller region, the more you're going to see gravitational ripple. If you want to ride a gravitational wave, you don't just want a whole bunch of mass energy density. You want a change in mass energy density, a rapid change in mass energy density, according to Pharis Williams. And the last thing we need to figure out, which we will be working on in the future, is what is the resonance condition? What is the frequency that we need to hit to cause this all to occur? Okay, guys, got some amazing more interviews. I'm going to try to talk to Salvatore Pais in a couple of weeks. I've also got Michael Herrera scheduled in the future, and I'm going to try to do some others. So check out the Hard Truths podcast, guys. More coming down the pipe. And then on Wednesday, I don't know exactly what we're going to do on Wednesday, but we're going to review the AJ and Tucker Carlson video on Wednesday, guys. Have a great night. MH370X. I love y'all. Peace out. Later.
In the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Coulomb forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos.